Welcome, everybody, to Winning in the Shadows, breaking down Dana White Contender Series 2024, Week 2. Andy and Jim here. I will start off by saying I think this could be the best week of the season.
Agreed.
This,
Definitely agreed.
all of these fights have a great story or a lot of potential for excitement. I do think it's pretty bettable. Let's get into the very first one: Billy Brand and Cody Haddon. What do you think about this fight?
Well, we got two guys here that are the only thing anybody can talk about either of them is that they fought two UFC fighters. All right, you got Billy Brand who fought Peyton Talbot, and then you got Steve Erceg on the other side. Now, I went back and watched this Peyton Talbot fight. That is not the Peyton Talbot that we know and love that Billy Brand fought. Not one bit. 1-0 Peyton Talbot. Excuse me if I don't put any stock in this guy losing. Keep in mind,
Getting finished?
getting finished by Peyton Talbot. I like what I see from Cody. I really do. I think he's more well-rounded. I love the combinations. I mean, he uses every part of MMA in his game: punching, kicking, wrestling, grappling, elbows. Great takedown defense, good get-up game. I've seen everything I need to see. The big question is, I guess, what if he doesn't get caught? Just don't get caught by Billy Brand. I think Brand might have the bigger KO power, but I don't think he's going to be able to catch Cody in this. I like Haddon. Again, coming out of Australia. We've seen these guys coming out of Australia have looked really good. And I think Billy Brand, they're kind of bringing him in here like, all right, he's 5-1. He fought Peyton. We can get a name here. All they're going to talk about on the broadcast is Billy Brand fought Peyton Talbot. Billy Brand
right.
fought Peyton, and took him to round 3. So give me Cody in this one. I don't know if it's a finish. He does tend to win by finish, but that's only a 6-1 record. I don't think it's a big enough sample size to just assume. But yeah, still playable by himself. Give me Cody.
I love Cody as well. I actually called Jim and I was like, "Can you watch this? Can you look at these fights? What your opinion? I don't want to tell you mine." I really like Cody Haddon in this matchup. Is he going to be a good UFC prospect? He'll probably win some fights in the UFC if he advances out of here. I have an interesting theory. I'm out on Uriah Faber's guys. Peyton Talbot is a unicorn. Peyton Talbot's a star. He's just unbelievably gifted. He's got an aura about him. His physicality is unmatched. And of course, Uriah Faber, partners up with UFC. I think they're pretty weak, man. We watched Torrez last week get steamrolled, and he's their champ.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about these guys coming out of, this A1 combat. I mean, look at Billy Brand's. Okay, beat a guy that was 3-0, but then 1-1, 1-0, 0-1. Peyton Talbot's, second pro fight, 0-0. Got some good amateur fights, but he started in 2013, man.
The
he
pro
started
fight record looks like an amateur record.
It really does.
That's what an amateur, Biagio Ali Walsh's competition has more wins than him.
Yeah, for sure.
Those guys look like.
For sure. Cody Haddon. I love his speed. I love his. Like you said, I love his combinations. He doesn't protect himself nearly as much as he should. He's too busy trying to land as many as he possibly can. But it works for him. He's tough. He's got a good chin. He's fought. I mean, got a guy 9-7. Guy was 19-12. Guy was 5-0. He fought Erceg when Erceg was 6-1. So Erceg, pretty polished at that point. And they both have kind of started to wrestle a little bit more recently, I think. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Billy Brand is nearly as good on the feet as Cody Haddon is. I think their wrestling may cancel each other out. But this is Contender Series. These guys know Dana White doesn't want to watch you wrestle. Dana White wants
you better sub him.
Yeah, you better ground and pound. You better do something. And I think Cody Haddon is just going to be more experienced. Another little caveat: Billy Brand was by far the worst at weigh-ins. He looked
Yes.
dead. He looked dead, man. He was not having a good time making weight. Is he going to be fine for tomorrow? Sure, but Haddon looked fine at weigh-ins.
Yeah.
Hadn't looked perfectly good.
And
Um, I,
bigger.
th- I think Haddon's going to have a little bit of the height advantage. I think he's going to be just a little bit bigger. I think he's going to do more damage on the feet, and he's less than minus 190, minus 180. To me, on Contender Series, I think that's a really, really good one. Remember you and I last week, we were like, yeah, kind of like Kavanaugh. Kind of
Yeah.
like Kavanaugh a lot. And it was like, yeah, it's minus 180, and then he absolutely steamrolled. So I don't want to miss out on that again. I'm keeping my eye on Uriah Faber's guys.
Yeah.
I think there's a big chance these guys are like kind of fraudulent when they're coming out of here. So up next, Cam Rowston and Torrez Finney. Our boy Torrez Finney from last season. What do you make of this fight?
I had to remember Torrez. We were talking about it back. Oh, it's Torrez. So yeah, he's our boy, man. Now listen, he's built like a little fire hydrant. I was a little worried when I saw the size difference until I went and I looked up film on Cam and watched film getting caught, dropped, and finished by guys that are probably shorter than Finney. So this big giant size advantage, he is so slow. He's one of these big, tall, lanky guys that the return on his techniques takes an eternity. He's slow to take the hands back, and boy, is Finney going to be able to catch him. I think Finney gets inside, picks him up, and just slams him, and it's all Finney from there. The size difference, I think, has a lot of people shook, especially at face-offs. It's got to be a cartoon. Well, you know what? Size isn't everything. If size was everything, Stefan Struve would be undefeated. And
Wow.
it didn't really work out that way. So I love Finney. Dana White brought him back for a reason. He's powerful. He's strong. We've seen his cardio hold up. He can only be getting better from what we saw last year. I think that they probably threw some pretty good investment money in him. I wouldn't be shocked if the UFC had something to do with that. So give me Torrez Finney, probably by finish early. I really do not see Cam lasting 2 rounds with this guy.
Yeah, if you can find the prop, I would play it. Finney by Maul and Destruction. I mean, here's one thing that I don't hear a lot of in this industry. You guys know, Jim and I love our theories, and a lot of our theories are off the wall, but a lot of them have backstories to them. And that comes from really diving deep into doing some of the research. I actually heard like somebody like with a straight face talking about how he didn't get signed last season to Contender Series. Go back and watch what Dana said, why he didn't get signed to Contender Series. Dana said, you're really young, you're only 24 at the time, you're a tank, you've got some holes in your game, but you're going to be a beast in the UFC.
Yep.
I don't want to bring you along too slow. And he actually used the phrase, I would be doing you a disservice by putting you in the UFC right now. You need a little bit more work, and then you're going to be great. And the look on Finney's face, he was like kind of disappointed, but I almost thought he saw it coming.
Yeah.
And knew. And by the way, Dana White is right. There are some guys.
Great call.
It was a great call. So Dana's sitting there going, get him another fight, get him a year's worth of training. We'll bring him back, and he'll smash a guy on Contender Series. And then we got a Torrez Finney who's only 25. He's only 25 years old. This is right in Dana's wheelhouse. So, but just by saying, well, Finney didn't get signed last season, you're missing the whole point as to why he didn't. So what does Finney do? Get some more training. And by the way, Finney's striking defense was really bad last time. And his striking was it was mediocre. He just threw wild. So he goes and he fights Tyson Jeffries, and he kills him. His striking, it was only minute 33. His striking is already better. Already absolutely better. It's much more under control. It's a lot more pointed. And this Cam Rowston, so Cam Rowston hasn't fought since 2022 where he beat, I watched this fight, and good God, no power, no speed, no movement. I have it written down here. So The combined record of the opponents Rowston has beaten is 12-27. And look what happens when he steps up in competition. He fights a guy who's 4-0, and he gets knocked out in the first round. And then he loses to Jacob Malkoun in Jacob Malkoun's first fight.
Which means Jacob Malkoun literally did not know how to punch.
So,
Like, he was a pure wrestler at that point.
yeah. So, Rowston is not strong enough to keep Finney off. Finney is going to pick this guy up with ease and slam him down. And you go, well, maybe he could get sparked. Maybe Finney gets caught on the chin. This guy does not punch hard enough. I've watched him. He doesn't. And he hasn't fought in 2 years. This feels like Dana had this circled last year on Contender Series. So it's Finney probably by finish. It is Finney by finish. It's by finish. This guy's not going to survive. So Cortavious, Romious over Michael Imperato. I had a big change of heart on this one watching weigh-ins. What's your take on this fight?
Fireworks.
Yeah.
Fireworks. Not playing aside. No way. I thought Michael looked horrible.
Didn't he?
Right?
He looked terrible.
They're bringing Cortavious back. He did him a favor with Torrez last year. He's at a size disadvantage. These two are going to go to the center of the cage and fire away. This fight's probably ending in round 1. I think they're just going to go at it, and somebody's going to fall down. I would not be surprised to see Cortavious knock this guy out quite quickly. I did not think he looked good at weigh-ins one bit. I didn't like the vibe. Skill set wise, I mean, again, it goes over. They're just bangers. They're going to come out like two alley cats. I don't think they're going to be cautious. We haven't seen that on Contender Series, and you can't be cautious and get a contract. We had a guy last week win a fight, apparently dominantly because it was a unanimous decision, and he still didn't get a contract. You have to go for the finish. So that's going to lend to fireworks. I can't wait to see what the total is on this fight.
I mean, last year, with Finney, Dana was like, "Yeah, you're not getting a contract, but we'll see you." Remember he didn't give Knutson a contract, and then 3 weeks later she was fighting in the UFC because everyone told him he was a dipshit. Last week Dana gave him the "I'm not giving you a contract, and I'm really disappointed in you." Yes. Like it was like the complete talk down to you move on your merry way. We'll never see you again. So I'm with you that Thunder is the only way to play this one. I couldn't believe how bad Imperato looked. I didn't recognize him. I was like, who? I had my screen open, but it wasn't enlarged, and I saw this small little fella get on the scale, and I was like, who is that? Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, this is Michael Imperato. I was like, that? What happened to him? He looked terrible. Absolutely. So
again, coming from the Canadian regional scene, not a great scene either.
His fights have been pretty tough to watch. I know there's a submission here, but this guy, Ricky Badeas, is pretty bad. I mean, just look at Romious's round one. He did lose a split decision, but most recently, man, his fights are over real quick. And if he does what he did against Ramon Taveras, which is just stand there and throw as many punches as you can in the first 30 seconds, it should be pretty good. So, all right, guys, if you could hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to the Winning in the Shadows YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. Get notified of all of our UFC content, PFL content. We got NFL futures up every week. We do Dana White Contender Series. And Jim, we cannot talk enough and more highly about our live shows, right?
Oh, they've been great. They've been great. We've been hitting some numbers that are just outlandish. We could sit here and piss and moan about judging, or we can make it work for ourselves. And that's what we've done over the past couple of weeks. Please join us if you have the time. One thing we just noticed is these live bets, when rounds could be 1-1. These judges, we just had a judge removed for giving a 30-27. I mean, some value in these live lines. And you're seeing things that you can't build into your handicap. And when you can't build that into the number, you have to see it live. You have to be available to watch it. So please join us for Contender Series. Join us for PFL, UFC. We've been really doing well live.
Yeah, the show's called Takedown Live, and we do all the events. Last week we got Bruno Lopez at plus 154. when it looked like he got knocked down, it turned out he just kind of tripped a little bit, and all of a sudden the line just went the other way. And then you get weird things like last week we noticed one fighter came out with his teenage
High
friends,
school soccer team friends, apparently, or something.
and his opponent came out with Ben Henderson. So that was an easy bet, and it cashed, of course. So those are the kind of odd things that you get. And by the way, the Contender Series live shows, I would say, are my absolute favorite. We award the BMF award at the end of the night for the best performance, and then we go to the end of the season where we award the best fighter of the season. And the winner of the BMF of last season was Carlos Prates, who has still been cashing tickets for us in the UFC. So a lot of fun. Please join us at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Let's get into here we go. Here's the fight. Here's the fight I can't wait to talk about. Rizvan, I think it's Kuniev. I've heard Kuniev and Kuniev. So whatever way you want to pronounce it. Against Hugo Cunha. Can I start first? Can I please start first?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So this is what, if you don't do your due diligence and you don't do your research, you're going to end up with Kuniev in your parlays at minus 600 thinking, wow, I got a guy who beat Renan Ferreira, and then it got ruled to a no contest. Well, I wonder what happened to this guy who has been on an absolute tear. Well, after he beat Renan Ferreira, he tested positive for all the steroids. I don't think there was a steroid that this man was not taking. He was part of the entire PFL dust-up where a bunch of them got popped, but he was one that was taking the hard shit. This was not the Barry Bonds cream. This was the jab at my ass level of steroids. So we haven't seen Kuniev in a long, long time since that Ferreira fight. So I went back, Jim, and I decided to do a little side-by-side comparison. Let's take a look at so this picture on the left is right before the fight starts. This is the night he beat Ferreira and then tested positive for steroids. Ladies and gentlemen, this is him this morning at weigh-ins.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like a man who is not on the steroids anymore.
And keep in mind, this is the same weight class.
Yes,
he wasn't at welterweight and now heavyweight. Was him in heavyweight. This is him in heavyweight.
So, now, I know what you're saying. Oh, come on. You guys are exaggerating. How could you possibly know he was taking that many steroids? Well, let's take a look at his back. So, look at the skin issues going on at this man's back. This was the night he beat Renan Ferreira, and this is him this morning. Jim, you've been in that world for a long time. I don't remember seeing that big of a stark contrast between someone's back skin.
The skin is one thing. The body type you've only seen when somebody like Carl Williams decides to go up to a weight class, when he just puts on flab. This is weird, man. I mean, you want to talk about the gyno drip that he's got him in both. It screams steroids.
What's describe the gyno drip?
So, your hormones go just out of whack when you're pumping yourself full of all the steroids. So if you look at your pecs drop. Everybody used to say it about Izzy. You get the one, so you get this little dip going on here. All of a sudden, your nipples pointing south. It's that gyno. I forget what the actual technical term is, but we always used to call it gyno boob. You get changed before a tournament and go, wait a minute.
I would say we get some pretty good evidence here that there's been a lot of steroids going on. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, that means I I'm not betting on a guy who is completely off of the juice and clearly was on the juice for a long, long period of time. I mean, seriously, you think they're testing in Pro FC and
No way.
UMC and
They're
Goretz
giving it to him.
FC and Eagle and no way. This is a guy who won on Contender Series in 2021. If you lay minus 600 on this man, you are asking for trouble. So, who's his opponent? I actually kind of like him. I actually kind of like Hugo Cunha, and here's what I like about him. He doesn't fade like most guys his size. This fight against Edward Neves, who's terrible, but he is a fighter who we've seen before. Cunha really finished him late in round 2 and did not look like his energy was dropping. He's fought bad competition, but he's finished most of them. But I watched him go the distance, close split decision on one championship. And what do we say, Jim? I would much rather have this guy be 8-1 than 9-0. He's tasted defeat. How did he respond by losing? Well, he goes to LFA, beats Batista, and then gets Armstrong Nez. I think you're asking for trouble to lay this kind of price on Kuniev. This is my upset pick of the week. I think Hugo. If you don't know the backstory of Kuniev, you're just going to throw this in parlays, and I think that's a massive mistake. I got Hugo winning either by decision or winning by knockout or submission in round 3 when Kuniev just gasses himself and can't really do anything. This is also a terrible, Contender Series is not, if Kuniev tries to do what he did against Renan Ferreira, which is hold him against the fence the whole time, the ref's just going to break him and it's going to be on the feet. So, what do you think? Sprinkle on Hugo? Is it worth it? I
Most
think
definitely. It's going to be Kuniev in the first 3 minutes. After that, he's got no shot. Just literally no shot. His cardio is going to fall off such a cliff if he's not on the juice, and he's got to wrestle this giant of a man. Hugo.
This guy's huge.
When they faced off, there is no size advantage for Kuniev either.
Absolutely.
And you can say what you want about when he fought Ferreira as well, but that was when Ferreira had 0 ground game. I can't stress that enough. Okay, you replay that fight now, it doesn't go that way, even if he's on the steroids. Yeah, I think Hugo's worth a sprinkle. I think this line is going to move severely. If it doesn't and it keeps piling, just bide your time. And you might get a great live line as well. Because if, Kuniev's going to throw some heat in the beginning of the fight. And if it stays standing for 3 rounds, it'll be interesting. So, yeah, stay away from the favorite.
Last fight, main event, Pat Pytlik and Andreas Gustafsson. I sent something out on Twitter about Gustafsson's fight a couple fights ago, and Tommy Unders reached out and was like, "Yeah, I remember that fight. I had Gustafsson at minus 500." So he's been following Gustafsson for a while. He mentioned something that I had no idea about, and this is why it's so important to know the backstory. He told me this is the first fight Gustafsson hasn't. There has to be tested for banned substances. He did not look as swole as he did in previous fights. So you gotta wonder what's going on there. I have this as early nominee for fight of the year. This is going to be insane. Who do you like in this fight?
I'm going with Pat. His backstory was something real interesting. You touched on that with me yesterday. He had a bad neck injury, took some time off, took a boxing fight because he couldn't feel his legs. When you hear something like that, you're like, what? Look, after face-offs, I think Pat knows something, man. I think I was getting some kind of a vibe. It wasn't cockiness, but it's almost like he's looking at him like, wow, you don't look as big. Oh, wait, you're not fighting in Russia. This is the UFC. He was on the Ultimate Fighter. He's been around this organization. If this gets after 2 minutes, I really like Pat, just from his skill set wise too. I think these guys are going to throw down, and whoever's cardio goes first or chin goes first, they're going to hit the deck. This is another one I love to not go the distance. I think somebody gets exposed in this fight. I know they're both tough, but I could see somebody proving that they're not supposed to be here or something's off.
Yeah. Yeah, Tommy also brought up that Gustafsson's coming down a weight
Oh,
class. So,
jeez, that's just a
so
recipe for disaster.
yeah, so the fight I was talking about was Gustafsson versus Tony Lampinen. Do yourself a favor and go watch this fight. It is one of the craziest, bloodiest, most violent fights I've seen. Um, I went and looked up Tony Lampinen. Lampinen lost and really absorbed a dangerous amount of punishment. And look what happened to him. He got knocked out like the next two fights. He I know he got knocked out here, but previous loss was a decision. He did get knocked out before, but while I was watching that fight, I was like, I wonder how these guys are going to do after. I mean, it was kind of one of those career altering, life changing amount of punishment. So, Gustafsson's beating Lampinen pretty bad the first, and then Lampinen just nails him with a shot that breaks Gustafsson's nose. They're both bleeding everywhere. They're both trading a bunch of shots. Gustafsson finally gets the upper edge, but he's an animal, man. And it was interesting because I wanted to see how he was going to look after that fight. Dude fought like 5 months later, and the fight only lasted 10 seconds. So you didn't get a chance to see like what is how recovered he was. He is an absolute tough SOB. And yeah, Pat Pytlik, I know what you're talking about with weigh-ins. There was something strange going on. So Pat Pytlik's story is he has this fight against Jake Lindsay, and he has this back injury, and he says I can't kick and I can't wrestle. So he boxes because he's like I can still punch. And he somehow goes to a draw, except his back is completely messed up. So he has to get surgery. Comes back, knocks a couple guys out in unified MMA, and be honest, looked really good doing it. Thought he looked healthy. What was weird was I like Pytlik too because it feels like this is a setup for him because he's got history with UFC.
Yeah, it's strange, right?
Did you notice that the guy like doing the weigh-in stuff? They were friends. It's
Yes.
good to see you again. And the staff like knew him, knew like he had been around them for a while, or there was something about like why does Pytlik feel right at home here? So so Pytlik was involved in the Let Me Bang Bro episode of The Ultimate Fighter, and he tells the story. I don't know if he was actually fighting there, but he was like there.
No, he was. I think he was one of the ones holding people back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was. So he tells this story about. It's like, yeah, we were. The night got completely out of control. The next thing I know, it's just the morning, and Dana White's in the house, like yelling at people, can't do this, can't do that. And he's like, I realized I got so blackout drunk the night before, I don't remember 1 second of it. He's like, I don't remember anything about the Let Me Bang Bro thing because everyone was so drunk. So, Pat Pytlik has some very strange history with UFC. The other weird thing why there is no chance in hell this thing is going the distance. Like I think it's under 1.5. Both these guys are in their 30s.
Yeah.
And what does Dana always say?
You gotta win convincingly. If he's gonna sign you at the 30s,
He says,
he
I'm
doesn't
not
want 'em."
looking for a 30-year-old contender. So they're putting a 33-year-old and a 35-year-old against each other. One of these guys is going to have to put on the performance of a lifetime. It's got to be this viral knockout so Dana can put him in there. But this is Dana that gave Jose Medina a contract for getting his ass kicked against a Magomed last season just because Dana had a good feel for him. There's something about this kid. So, all right. So let's recap. We both like Cody Haddon over Billy Brand. We like Finney by Murder. I think we like Romious, right? Inside the distance?
Romious, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely inside the distance, unders. Yeah.
Yeah, Imperato, man, there was just something off about him at weigh-in. It just didn't look like the guy that I had watched in previous videos. We're calling for the upset. Hugo kind of against a non-roided up Rizvan there. So there's just too many red flags with the guy's physical appearance. So, and then we'll take a stab on Pat Pytlik. As a nice underdog. So last week, what was it? 4 favorites, 1 underdog, 1. Yeah. So we're gonna go with 3 favorites and 2 underdogs for the video. We do have our 5% play that is up. Make sure you go ahead and grab that. One last look at Rizvan. It's just too much for me, man. It's too much. So, so 5% UFC, Dana White Contender Series plays are up. We're still running the special buy 7 days for the price of 3. That is good until Tuesday night. So lock that thing in now. That way you get all of our Contender Series plays out. So that is going to do it for us, guys. Good luck on all your plays. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Join us on the Winning in the Shadows YouTube channel. And we will be live for Takedown Live on the YouTube channel called Winning in the Shadows. We're going to be watching all the Contender Series live, and we'll be hopefully making some more profits off of some of our live bets. Good luck on all your plays.
Watching them coaches.
We're watching the coaches. We're watching the body language, uniform. We've hit a couple fade the uniform theory plays. So the live show is definitely where it's at. Hope to see everyone there. Good luck on your plays. We'll see everyone later.
See you tomorrow.